Yo, I'm Zach, and I'm talking about ancient Egyptian architecture. Now, I'm a big fan of architecture, and well, I'm in this class because I also like history too, and both of those pretty freaking cool. Across ancient Egyptian history, there's been plenty of houses that they have made in plenty of styles, but there are two very popular ones that I want to focus on. That being the garden villa, which is for the rich people, and then the townhome, which was for the not rich people. Now, these houses were very important for the time because it's where basically everyone except for like royalty lived. So it became a very important part of life that I want to talk about. Materials. Now, the main materials they used was just stuff that they could find around them. They never really went out of their way to find stuff. It was just what's on the ground, what can we see? That's what they used. The main building resource that they used was mud. Now, they just took it from the ground, obviously, and then made it into just crude mud bricks. Now, when they make them, they're still wet, so they just slam them down on top of each other and they'll just fuse together. So that's how it stayed together. Now, to support all of that weight, because it's just mud, it's not going to fully support itself, they also used wood. Now, wood, they lived in a desert. It's going to be super hard to find wood. So they used it very sparingly, usually only for supports or to like make entryways, like doors or windows. They did use wood to make solid wood doors, but that was really only for rich people. You wouldn't see that in a townhouse, you'd see it in a garden villa. Construction. Now, the most important part of construction for the two houses is a foundation. With the townhouse using a basement, garden villas just used a foundation. But this was used so that dust from the desert and water from the when the Nile floods wouldn't get into the basement or the rest of the house because it's all elevated. Now, that's not the only reason that they have it. They also have it as mainly support and storage. So, how they built it is they have just a ton of big pillars at the basement level that are supported by wood pieces. This is really the only place that they used wood quite a bit because of how rare it was. And then everything else would be built on top of it. Garden villas, about one floor. They never really went above one floor. Townhouses, though, they were usually like 2 to 3 floors plus a basement. Um, and the townhouses were much more elevated because they had that basement layout. So for the garden villa, you have this big open courtyard that could be fenced off, it could not be, or whatever. First, you have these outside spaces that are usually for workers to sleep, work in, or whatever. If whatever job they need to do, they probably have a building for it and sleeping quarters there. Then for the main building, this is where the rich family lives. Uh, Now it starts with a foyer that is attached to a dining room, and then you probably have some sort of office space for the person who owns the house, and maybe some bedrooms and whatever. And then on the roof, you'd have a more recreational space. Now, for the townhouse, again, we have the basement, which is where a lot of the support is. We have the first floor, which would have also probably had something like a dining room or some space to hang out. Then you'd have like bedrooms higher up, and then you'd have the roof access, which would also be for most likely recreation or work. And the basement is for storage and working also. The garden villas, those much more spread out. There's a ton of space between them. With the townhomes, they were smashed together. There was no space between them. Social aspects. Now, there was some very big differences between rich people and poor people. One of the big ones being rich people had plumbing. Poor people, it was incredibly rare to find plumbing. Some did, but you were barely ever going to find it. Rich people had plenty of servants that would live on their property and do work for them. Poor people didn't have their own servants. They might have someone do some service for them. In terms of privacy, poor people aren't getting any privacy. I mean, the stairs are on the outside, their doorways are open. People could just walk in if they wanted to. They didn't, but they can do that. Rich people, on the other hand, they had their whole compound place. Uh, they had their own building where their family would only live. Their servants would have their own buildings, and they might have had private areas for the woman of the house on the roof. They also, in their homes, both poor and rich people would have big dining areas where they would use for social gatherings. And this was very important for them because that was the main way they socialized in their homes, was at that dining room. All the stuff about these houses, from the building with resources around them to the social aspects to their building layout and all of that, it's pretty important for modern day because many of those aspects could save on costs, like using resources around you. The layouts of their homes was pretty unique, which could lead to a more friendly layout. They built many houses with very little resources, which cutting down on resources would also cut down on costs. So modern day, these types of building aspects could help with cutting costs and making just more affordable housing.